There is no reason to gaslight our patients. There is no reason to convince them they shouldn't feel the way they feel. She feels angry. She deserves to feel angry. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. I am so honored always to be here sharing this incredible work with you and supporting you in your journey in being a better human, in reaching to be your higher self, to live a life of happiness and joy, and to continue to serve the people we serve as healthcare providers, dentists, and whatever form of support and health and healing you provide to your patients. This is your resource to find happiness in that and to better serve your patients. It also helps us better serve the people that we take care of and pour into every single day, our family, our loved ones, and most importantly, into ourselves. And today, I'm going to share with you this incredible story that highlighted such an important tenet of healing and of supporting our patients through healing. And that is allowing our patients to feel their feelings. And so important for us to allow ourselves to feel our own feelings. But the magic behind today's episode is when we allow our patients to feel their feelings, we give ourselves permission to step outside of them. Today's episode is about involved detachment, being able to hold space for our patients in the moment that they're having a tough time and allow ourselves a little bit of distance so that we can see so often it's not about me. I don't know if this has happened to you before, but in practice, I used to take everything so personally. I used to think that every feeling a patient had was a direct representation of something I did or didn't do, something I did correctly or I did incorrectly. I used to take every piece of feedback, but even emotional responses of my patients as direct, criticism or validation of what I was doing. And when I gave myself permission to just let it be and not judge myself based on every little emotional reaction my patients were having, I gave them permission to feel how they feel and not take it on for myself. So I'm going to tell you the story, and maybe this can outline it for you a little bit. And maybe you've had this happen to you in practice yourself. I have this wonderful patient. She is having a lot of work done. She came to us very, reluctantly, which is unusual in orthodontics. In orthodontics, we have most of our patients come because they really want to. It's an elective dental thing. We don't force anyone to get braces. We don't force anyone to get aligners. Very rarely do people do this against their happiness, against what they really want to do with their lives. But this situation was one of those rare examples where she really didn't want to be there. She's in her 40s. She is gorgeous. She's lovely, a wonderful person. And several decades ago, she lost a front tooth, and she has a bridge that is failing. And her dentist sent her to me. She came to my chair because I need to help aligning some of those teeth so that we can restore them permanently and give her a better solution for her beautiful smile. Well, of course, part of this journey is removing the bridge, which means losing a front tooth. Now, she lost that front tooth 20 years ago, but to her, she's had a replacement there for 20 years. So leading up to this, we've had multiple appointments, consultations, walking her through it, making sure she had an aligner with a tooth in place so that the day that tooth came out, she had something to put back in. We showed her what it would look like. We gave her some anticipation of how her teeth would be moving into place and how we would be solving this problem over time. We talked about the pros and cons and the informed consent. My team is amazing. They are so attentive. They helped her schedule all the appointments with the various specialists, and we were really taking good care of her. Well, last week was the appointment to have that bridge removed. Not in my office, in her dentist's office. And we had a usual busy day. And in the morning, early in the morning, I could feel the tension in my office start to rise. First of all, if you've ever had that experience, I know you recognize it. And if you haven't, you can start paying attention because you can feel the energy, especially of your team. You can feel the energy in the room. Well, I had that intuitive feeling, oh, something's going down. And the next thing, my phenomenal receptionist ran back and said, this general dentist is on the phone, and she said that our mutual patient is in her chair and she is losing it. What should she do? Can she just do XYZ? And I said, no, don't worry. Send her over here afterwards and I'll help take care of the situation. Well, the next thing, my front desk receptionist ran back again a few minutes later and said, and now there's an angry email, and she wants you to read this email. This patient wants you to read this angry email before she even comes into the office so that you know how she feels. The entire team was amped up. Everyone was activated. It was a busy day. We had a full day of scheduled patients, and this phenomenal, wonderful, angry human was going to be squeezed into a column, and we had to find space for her. And it was like hot potato with my team, guys. And I know you felt this before. If you're an orthodontist and you have a team of assistants who each own a chair, everyone was given an excuse why their chair would not be the right chair to see this wonderful patient in. Anyway, we finally found her a private room, and I stood aside, took a moment from my patients on the floor, closed my office door, did some nervous system regulation of my own, and sat down quietly to read the email. From the first line of the email, it was clear to me that she was having a trauma response. Now, I want to talk about trauma responses for a moment. Especially in dentistry, I think we don't give enough respect to human trauma responses. So what are trauma responses? Trauma responses are when you're activated or triggered by something that elicits an emotion from a previous traumatic event. So a traumatic event can be big T trauma or little t trauma. Big T trauma are enormous incidents in your life: loss, death, sexual abuse, physical abuse, enormous, disastrous, fearful events that have happened in your life that kind of stick with you, that there could be whispers of in your future that elicit a response. Little t trauma could be as small as someone telling you that you've got funny looking ears in elementary school, and that traumatic event imprints on you for the rest of your life. And you carry with you that traumatic event throughout every experience in the rest of your life. So trauma doesn't have to be from someone who had a terrible childhood. Trauma can be experienced in any form, and what causes me trauma may or may not cause you trauma. There were some incredible studies done after 9/11 noticing how the trauma, big T trauma, 9/11 would count as big T trauma, how it impacted children differently. And some children really had what we now call PTSD from that event, and some just didn't. Their abilities to self-regulate, their environments for support made a big difference. But trauma is experienced individually. It is unique to each of us. As I was reading this email, it was very clear to me that my patient was simply having a trauma response. That morning, she had had her bridge removed and lost her front tooth. No, I don't know what this is bringing up for her. I don't know what event in her life, way in her past, this is recalling for her. It could be any number of things. What I do know is her response to the event was outside of the realm of expected. And that's what a trauma response looks like. And that's what it looks like within us. And to be very honest with you, this type of an event in my life, as a compassionate, caring, loving orthodontist, would have triggered a trauma response in me. Just knowing that is such enormous power. When we can see the trauma response in ourselves, when we can see that this actually has nothing to do with me. So I sat down and read the email, and in the email, I also saw a lot of shame. Immediately, I saw somebody who was resentful and scared and angry and shameful, all very predictable trauma responses. What I did next was I went to my assistant who pulled the short straw, who got this appointment squeezed into her column. But to be honest with you, what a gift for her to be able to have this experience. Because I sat down with her and said, listen, this is a trauma response. This is not about us. This is not about the dentist who she just saw. This patient has just lost her front tooth, and it is eliciting in her a trauma response. When she comes in, we are going to let her feel her feelings. That is the number one most important thing that you can do as a healthcare provider faced with someone in the throes of a trauma response, is allow them to feel their feelings. That's it. That's the most important thing. Allowing our patients to feel their feelings is absolutely the most important thing for somebody having a trauma response. I sat down with my team member and said, listen, we're just going to let her feel. She's going to come in. She's going to be angry. She's going to be fearful. We're just going to let her rage. We brought her into a private room, and I got the tissues ready because I knew what would come next. So often, as human beings, we don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings, especially rage. Anger is such a normal feeling. It is such a human feeling. And when we don't allow ourselves to feel the feelings, we actually trap down those emotions and we make them worse. And then they come out sideways. We all have experience with this when you didn't allow yourself to feel something, and then the next thing, you took it out on someone you loved, or you were snippy to your child, or you were snippy to your husband, somewhere safe. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. So we sat down with her in the office and we let her just be angry. Was she angry at me? Absolutely. She had a lot of negative things to say. She was mad about everything. In fact, when she walked in, she threw the aligners down and said, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Notice the fight or flight response. She was fighting and she was running. Classic trauma response. I said to her, please tell me everything. I read your email, but I want to hear it from you. I want to hear how you feel. Of course, she was resistant. We all are. It's uncomfortable to share our feelings. It was much safer for her to put it in written word. And now I was inviting her to share it with me in person. And she started. She started being angry at me, angry at my office. Of course, when we are fearful, we want to put the blame somewhere. I recognized a very human trauma response. Here's the separate and different superpower as a clinically trauma-informed practitioner that you can take with you going forward. It's not about you. Giving her space to air her complaints, to be angry, allows her to get it out of her system, to put it somewhere. When we give her permission to feel her feelings, we can distance ourselves from it and not experience it ourselves as a trauma response in ourselves. Let me tell you, when someone is angry at me or says that I've hurt them in some way, alarms go off in my body. But I've learned to listen to those alarms. I've learned to pay attention to the panic growing inside of me and to step outside of it and give myself a 50,000-foot view to see this is not about me. She's simply in the throes of a trauma response, and her anger, her fear, her resistance is exactly demonstrating where she is. So we just allowed her to feel. And that's the way I looked at it as well. I wasn't receiving the blame. I was just letting her vent. Well, the next thing that happened was the tears, which is why I had the box ready, the box of tissues. And I just allowed her to cry. And then, of course, the shame. She was uncomfortable yelling at me. She felt embarrassed yelling at me. Also, completely normal human emotions. When we don't judge, we can see them for what they are. The very important next step as a practitioner that I knew to do was validate. And all you need to say is, you have every reason to feel angry. That's it. I didn't take blame for a thing. I just validated her feelings. That's all we want. When we're in the middle of a trauma response, all we want to know is, I am validated in my feelings. You just lost a front tooth. Of course you're angry. Of course you're angry. You don't have to apologize for the way you feel. You're angry because you lost a front tooth. I completely understand. There is no reason to gaslight our patients. There is no reason to convince them they shouldn't feel the way they feel. She feels angry. She deserves to feel angry. Once I could get through those first two steps, I could follow up with, now let me see how I can help you. Then I could address her concerns with the tools that I have as a dentist. We don't need to be therapists in the moment. We just need to know how to give our patients space to feel their feelings, to validate their feelings, and then to provide a space of safety and taking care. That's it. That's our job. Do no harm. And do what we do know how to do within the scope of our practice. I know how to fix this aligner so that she feels more comfortable with the shape of the tooth in her mouth. I know how to just hold space for my patient so that she can have feelings. And then to say, you have every right to feel that. Of course, anyone in your situation would feel this way. Now, let me see how I can help you. It even gives us permission to have made mistakes. Now, my team had made no mistakes in that moment, in this patient scenario. We had done everything right. But let's say for a moment there was a mistake made. When we give our patients room to feel their feelings, validate their feelings, we can then say, I see here was a way that we could have done things differently. Let's fix that for you now. That's it. It's as simple as that. We could have done things differently here. I see that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let's change that for you right now. Do you see how that still validates a human's experience? It still validates their emotions. It doesn't tell them, you don't deserve to feel this way. I told you about this. We warned you about this. You had all the informed consent. That defensive posture is falling prey to my own trauma response. That's my fight or flight kicking in. When we give our patients permission to feel their feelings, we give ourselves permission to step outside of them and see them for what they are, just a trauma response. And we can validate them and we can support them with the tools that we have, that we are expert at. We don't need to be therapists. We just need to allow them to experience their feelings. And you know, it's so interesting to me because in dentistry, I think this happens more often than not. And many, many, many times, our patients are actually experiencing a trauma response because of their own experiences in dentistry. We know as practitioners how many of our patients have dental anxiety or just white coat syndrome. Walking in and seeing us in a white coat is triggering. Sometimes just the smell of a dental office is triggering. Just allowing someone into your mouth is so vulnerable. Just that alone can be triggering. When we allow our patients to just feel the way they need to feel, process through them, and then give them support, we gain enormous strength to be able to support them further. We create safety. Because when you give someone permission to feel their feelings, it tells them that this is safe. This space is a safe space to have your feelings. You are welcome to feel any way you want to feel. How good does that feel? How good does that feel to hear? Even as a practitioner, this is something important for us to recognize in ourselves. Beyond being able to give our patients permission to feel their feelings, the number one skill of a compassionate provider is being able to regulate your own feelings, being able to regulate your own nervous system, your own sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, your own reaction and trauma response, so that you can hold space for your patient, so you can guide your team to hold space for your patient, so that they can have feelings in front of you and you can allow them to process through it without being activated yourself. Or if you are activated, knowing how to work through that for yourself. If this is something, by the way, that you are interested in, I'm going to tell you that I'm creating this incredible, beautiful course that will be coming out in the fall of 2022. And this course will be focusing on how to self-regulate, how to create a space within ourselves so that we can be available for our patients. I'll be using specific examples in dentistry and in medicine of how we can make sure that we bring our best selves to the dental office, to the medical office, and how to allow ourselves to regulate our nervous systems to hold space for our patients. It's also a great tool, by the way, for holding space for teenage children. Let me tell you, this has been a lifesaver for me because one of the places I get triggered in my life is with my teenagers. If any of you have teenagers out there, you know what I mean. I've heard it works for mother-in-laws too, although I don't have that experience, but many people are triggered by mother-in-laws. This practice works there too. If you're interested in this course, by the way, please head over to my website. It's called The Biz of Happiness, www.thebizofhappiness. And you'll see on the landing page is a free meditation. If you just click on that and download it, you'll you'll automatically be saved. Your email will be saved within my system. And then when the course goes live, I'll send it to you. I promise you I won't send things ahead of time. There's nothing else that I'm going to be sending you. But if you give me your email address, I'll be sure to send you information about the course when it goes live this fall. Take a moment. There's nothing more powerful than being able to hold space for your patient to have human emotions. Let me tell you that that day, when I allowed that for that patient, I was like walking on a cloud the rest of the day. The appointment ended with her calm. We hadn't done very much different. We just adjusted her aligner a little bit. She walked out of the office calm, with her aligners in her mouth. She picked them back up off the table where she'd thrown them. She felt seen and safe and heard. The next day, I got an email from her with enormous gratitude, saying thank you for allowing her to feel her feelings, that this was very difficult for her, validating everything I knew, thanking me for squeezing her into the appointment, thanking me for giving her space to feel, and apologizing, which she didn't need to do, but recognizing the value of what we provided. There's nothing more fulfilling for me now, at this stage in my practice, than allowing myself to treat and support humans compassionately. When we talk about inner fulfillment in our profession, this has been enormous for me. Allowing myself to step out of everything and see it for what it is, to hold space for my patients. Whew, that's huge. If you're anything like me, years ago, 20 years ago, when I was dreaming of being a dentist, that's what I wanted. I wanted to give beautiful, compassionate care. I wanted to serve my patients. That piece is what got lost along the way for me when I was in the throes of hating myself in my career, when my job felt more like it was sucking from me. Just having that moment with that patient last week meant everything. It just colored my day so differently. By giving her permission to feel, I increased my happiness enormously. I felt so great. My team members did too. It allowed them to learn a new skill of how to hold space even when you're afraid. Because that's what it was, right? The whole team was jacked up. They were afraid. Who's going to get blamed now? And to be honest with you, in years past, that's exactly what I would have done as a leader. Who messed this up? Who didn't send the informed consent form? Who didn't have her sign it? Who didn't send her the email letting her know about the steps? Even though we went through it in person, we promised we'd send it to her. Who didn't give her the right aligners? Where did we mess up? Where can I find blame? Simply allowing my patient to feel her feelings took away all need to do that. We just let her process through it. Imagine a space where you can deliver the care that you dreamt of being able to do. Imagine being able to touch someone's life beyond just their teeth or their wrists or their shoulders or their knees, wherever you're supporting them with care. Imagine being able to see them for the human they are. Now imagine all of our healthcare having this understanding. Imagine you as a patient in the throes of a trauma response in your doctor's office and having them recognize that that's all it is and giving you space to process it so that you can work through it, so that you can receive the care that they have to give. And as a practitioner, knowing how much better your care is when you're in a space of calm, We've all had that experience when we're triggered by anger or fear in our patient and we just can't deliver our best. Imagine being able to be in that space and allow for it so that you still could be your best. Or as a patient, knowing that your doctor, your dentist has done the work and been able to self-regulate so that even if I'm having a little trauma response right now, you can still give me your best care. Imagine the safety and the compassion. Imagine how great that would feel as a practitioner. It's possible. It's possible when we allow our patients to feel their feelings and we self-regulate our own. You know, it just speaks to that phrase that I always say, when you feel good, you can do good. I mean, that's exactly it. When I allow myself not to fall prey to my fear, I can actually be an incredible orthodontist. I can actually be an incredible mom. I can actually be an incredible wife. And I can feel really good. That's where happiness is. That's where happiness lies. When we can be the self that we know we can be, when we can be the incredible human we know we can be, the person that we love, and we understand when our fight or flight system is kicking in and learn how to regulate it. Once again, I'm excited to bring this course to you. I'm excited to give you some great techniques for you to be able to use in your daily practice and in your daily life. So once again, if this is of interest to you, you can go ahead and kind of pre-order, if you will, by just downloading that free meditation. There's no fee. Download that free meditation, and it's a fabulous meditation, by the way. If you've ever been interested in starting meditation and recognizing how it feels in your body and really finding out the power of meditation, it's absolutely essential to finding that calm and that sense of presence in yourself as a practitioner. So go ahead and download the meditation, but then I'll save your email and I'll be sure to send you that information about the course when it goes live this fall. It's going to be amazing. All right, my friends, until then, wishing you a spectacular week. I hope that you have moments where you can hold space for your patients. I hope that you have moments where you can hold space for yourself and recognize when you need to process feelings, because you're human. And those feelings make you the spectacular human that you are. And remember that we need to feel those challenging emotions in order to feel the fabulous ones. Sending you so much love. And remember, when you feel good is when you can do good. Bye-bye.